Grand Rising, pretty people. So I am Danny Shimei, and I decided to come and do something a little different. In my last video, I briefly talked about how in this year I had some big plans that I wanted to do and to work on. One of those things was I wanted to give you guys a glimpse into what I do with my free time. In my free time, I love to read. Like, even before I lost my vision, I was like an avid reader. Like, I absolutely love reading. Used to love to go into like Barnes and Nobles, even Walmart, and like buy a book. And I could sit and read that book and finish that book within a day. Like, I could just sit and enjoy a nice, good book. So after losing my vision, I was like, oh, this is not going to stop me. There are plenty of ways for me to continue reading my books. I'll just have to listen to like the audio version of the books. So I got an Audible Plus subscription. I got a Kindle Unlimited subscription. I've bought plenty of books on Apple Books. So that way I can keep up with my reading. And like at this moment, when I go through, like, especially if I'm on Kindle, I can go through a good 3 to 4 books a day. So you can just see how many books I am like reading within a week. If I'm doing like 3 to 4 books a day and there's 7 days in a week, you do the math. Sometimes it might be more books, sometimes it might be less. It just depends on my week. I actually would rather read a book than watch TV because I thoroughly enjoy like imagining the book being told, like imagining who would play each character. Like, I go through my head with a book and I'll be like, oh, I could see this actor or this actress. Sorry. If you're hearing like the chime noise in the background, that's just like my Ring doorbell camera. Anytime there's like movement in the front of my house, it kind of goes off. It's pretty annoying, but anyways. But like I was saying, like I could see like this actor or this actress playing this character. I can kind of like go through the book and I'm like, oh, this particular scene, I could hear this song playing in the background. I could see the setting of it. Like, I do all of this in my head while I'm reading a book, like, which is kind of pretty creative if you think about it. I love all types of books. Like, I'm not just like drawn to one type of genre of a book. I will read any kind of book as long as it's a good book. But I typically read a lot of urban fictions, a lot of romance novels. Love a great romance novel, especially the ones where I get the happy ending that I like. One weird fact about me is when I read a book, I've gotten a lot better over like the last few years reading the book from front to end. But I used to read a book all the way to the climax of the book. And then when I get to the climax of the story, I would skip to the end of the book to find out what happens at the end of the book. If I don't like the ending of the book, I never go back and finish the book. If I like the ending, then of course I'll go back in and read how we got to that ending. I hate when I get a surprise ending that I was not expecting. Like, there are a few books out there that the book is so good and then I get to the ending and I'm like, I didn't like that ending. I thought it could have ended differently. But, I mean, hey, it's the writer's choice, I guess. So, do that. But I do want to let you know, I still am going to be documenting my vision loss journey as well. But I just wanted to, do some book reviews just to give you a glimpse of what I'm reading, what I have read. So, my first book that I am going to discuss is called Let Me Love You by Alexandria House. This book is on Audible. It is 11 hours and 6 minutes long. I know that seems like a long book, but it really isn't. Especially like if you change your time, like your speed, put your speed to like 1.8 or 2. Book is over with within like 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours, which I have mine at like 1.8 right now. So it took me like 4 hours to read the book. Listen to the book. Book was released August 7th of 2018. It is an African American contemporary story. It's a great love story between main characters Joe and Big South. Big South is a rapper who's been in like the game for like 20 plus years. Joe, she's like the small time, not even small time, but she's like, yeah, small time girl. She's currently like working as an apprentice slash personal assistant for a Korean guy named Parks who designs like jewelry for celebrities and stars and everything. So you have like Joe meeting South, and in the beginning, Joe kind of got mad at him because South called her one of Park's side pieces. And so, of course, she got mad because she's not his side piece. Then you have that, have them meeting and him pursuing her, or at least trying to pursue her. But then eventually he sees her and he's able to get her alone and realize how much he likes her. Joe thinks she's like the average girl, not all that cute, because she has like a distinct gap in the front of her mouth. She has like freckles, and she has this big, like wild, like type afro hair, which South is actually drawn to her. That's what he likes about her. Her hair, the gap, the freckles. It makes her uniquely beautiful in his eyes. She's not like the supermodel type that everyone says they want. She's like the average beautiful girl, down to earth. She has a 2-year-old daughter. She has an ex-husband who doesn't want her to move on. He kind of wants her to like wait on him. He's also a rapper. And then you have South's ex-wife, Esther, who is an ex-supermodel, and she's like 15 years older than South. And they have like a 15-year-old daughter together named Ella. You have Esther, who's jealous and doesn't want South to move on either. She wants to be back with him so bad. Ella wants her parents back together. She doesn't like the fact that he's moved on. He's fallen in love with Joe and her daughter, Natalie. So you have like this whole story of them bugs trying to come between South and Joe, Esther trying to come between South and Joe. You have them trying to release Joe's sex tape. Well, actually, it's not even gonna try to release it. They did release her sex tape, and to see how she handles that and how South handles that. You have Esther, who tried to hide in a closet to record Joe and South having sex so she can release that sex tape. You have finding out the truth about Ella. Like, you find out the real reason why South and Esther divorced, which at the end you kind of find out the real reason behind why South never wanted to get back with Esther, plus what they're holding over her head and everything like that. You have fights happening at award shows, hip hop award shows, which I guess the book kind of wanted to be like, hey, at a hip hop award show, anything can happen. So you have that going on. It's just a lot of different things going on in this book, which is a really good book. Like, it's a good little love story of how they fight through everything that's thrown at them. Their love, overcomes it all. You have You're introduced to Joe's best friend Bridget and her makeup artist slash friend Sage. You're also introduced to South's family, which he has twin brothers, Nolan and Neil. Nolan is like the businessman, all about his money twin. And when you're first introduced to Nolan, he like dates nothing but like Russian girls, which like infuriates his twin Neil, because Neil is kind of like the Hotep of the family, like everything black. And it's one of those like funny kind of situations. And then you're introduced to Leland, which Leland is the NBA player of the family, and then their only sister Kat. You're introduced to her as well, briefly to her. No one really knows her. She's kind of like the mystery in this book. We do know that she's married. That's about it in this book, because she's kind of just mentioned from here and there. Then you have my favorite character, even though he's just like a little small character in the book. But my favorite character is Uncle Leicester. Uncle Leicester is kind of like one of those, like, he reminds me of like your old uncle. Like, every family, I think every black family especially, has one person in their family, that one uncle that just cannot get with the times, that is like still living in like the 70s, 80s, 90s, or early 2000s. And he's one of those. Like, they describe him as like he walks around with like the Bluetooth piece in his ear, like the one that clips on your ear and comes like off of your ear, like the little square Bluetooth piece. He still walks around with that on. Like, yeah, you can just imagine how hilarious he is. But one thing about Alexandria House and her books, I will say this: her books are kind of tied together, even though they're like standalone books. They're all tied together. So, like with this book right here, it's a standalone novel, but it's a part of a series. So there's 5 books in this series called the McLean Family. Excuse me, the McLean Family series. Like I said, there are 5 books. Each book is focused on one of the McLean siblings. So this first book is focused on South, Big South, aka Everett McLean. The second book is focused on Leland, and I think the third book is focused on Nolan. The fourth book is focused on Neil, and then the last and final book of the series is focused on the sister Kat. So I will go through and do a review on each of the books because I have read all of these books. I've read a lot of Alexandria's books, and a lot of her books, you'll see some of these characters pop up or be mentioned in other books, which is something that I absolutely love. I will go through and do a lot of her books, like I said, because I've read a lot of her books, and a lot of her books are pretty good. I have read reviews from people who say her books are pretty much all like the same romance, like type of thing. You have conflicts, but I mean, what romance novel isn't like that? You have 2 people who meet, fall in love. Conflict arises where people are trying to break them up. and then they end up together. Those are my favorite type of romance books. I hate the romance novels where you have like two people meet, fall in love, trouble happens to try to break them up, and it end up happening where they break up and they don't end up together. Who wants to read a love story like that? Who wants to read a book like that? No one, especially not me. I absolutely love a good happy ending to my book. So, but back to this one. I will give this book a 5-star rating. And I know, like, people like, well, you're giving the books that you're reviewing a high rating just because you read them and you like them. No, I actually am giving this one a 5-star rating because I love the way the story is told. I love the way the words flow. There's even like a part where she writes out a rap, and I can like hear with it. I'm double time actually. You can hear the rap being flowed, and it's like, wow. Her words is like so romantic. Like, you get some books where it's kind of like, it's not realistic, but this book is actually realistic, especially in the world and in the eyes of like celebrities. And you've seen some of this stuff happen in the real world with celebrities. You've seen like the big star fall for the the known, you know, the girl who's not known. And you've seen like exes with revenge porn and all this stuff. So you've seen a lot of this stuff happening in the news. So that's why I say it's so realistic. And I love the fact that her books are realistic. I mean, it's just one of those. I absolutely love it. I fell in love with Big South. Big South is like my dream guy, actually. Remove like him being a rapper, him being famous and all this. He's just like my dream guy of how sweet, how caring he is, of how he takes care of his family. Not to mention the fact that she describes him as like this 6'6" giant with dreads. My type of guy. Yeah, my type of guy. But he's just that guy, like that lovable teddy bear type guy that you would fall for. So, of course, I'm going to give this book a 5. Not to mention, like I said, Jacoby and Adobe, if I'm sorry again for saying her name incorrectly, they bring these characters to life. I absolutely love this book. Love, love, love this book. I have listened to this book God knows how many times already. Like, since the first time I bought this book on Audible. I cannot tell you how many times I have listened to this book. So, I recommend this book. I hopes you will go find the book and read the book. Again, it's called Let Me Love You by Alexandria House. And again, I found the book on Audible. So please like, comment, and subscribe. And in the comment section, please, please, please recommend more books for me. Come and tell me if you go through and you read this book, or if you will read the book, what your thoughts on the book are. And again, thank you so much. Please share. Toodles.